So I was reading this article by this woman who didn't put her real name because she was a professor in a Ivy League university, and she has a PhD in women's studies. But she was saying that the social critical theory, race theory stuff, and DEI has destroyed the universities. She thinks it's so diseased they can't be saved. She thinks the only thing that can be done is brand new universities have to be built with brand new professors put in. Because she said maybe if there's some grassroots movement of the opposite force, but see, that's the problem with that is that even with grassroots movements, they'll get hijacked by big money. That's often the thing you have to watch out for, and people usually don't, because they come in as they're for your cause, but then they twist it into their socialist, the same thing that's going on right now. So, but what's interesting is she had said in this, like, she's still part of the problem, and because I've mentioned this before, this race thing has been created, okay? There's not a systemic racist problem. There are revolutionaries, socialists, they've been around for a long time, communists, they're everywhere, okay? And they know how to manipulate, as well as radical Islam knows how to manipulate to get what their needs. And they do the same thing all the time. They did with the feminist movement. They convinced a bunch. I can't stand the feminist movement. The feminist movement is the worst thing that was ever done to women. Oh, I know that's horrible. No, it just is. It is. Because they convinced women that their men wanted them to just be at home raising babies, and it was somehow made them less than. And that was shitty. But when you understand Marxism and that those revolutionary people, how they work, they need to pull at the fabrics of traditional family values, most especially, but traditional values. So what the feminist movement did was make it to where every household in the country had both parents at work and kids were at daycare. Because every woman was made to think, well, no, to be equal, I must be at work. It can't just be my husband. That's how they do it. It's how they do it with race, and most especially the cities, is they get the blacks hating the cops, and the cops thinking they're being attacked, and the others, and then next thing you know, everybody's doing bad. And then after a bunch of that happening, they tell you you've had a systemic racism problem when you never have, because that's what these revolutionaries do. They always are creating a division. That's what's happened in the universities, and she's right. They're probably so diseased, you're not going to be able to save them. Because she said it's not a place of free thinking. The biggest thing, where I think that there's a real division, but it always has been and probably always will be, and it's not anything that any revolutionary created. It's just, I'm not sure why, but it's that the higher educated never think that they can learn from people that have less education. It's true. And that's fine. It's just, that's part of the problem. That's a true, legit, division. We can talk about that there's a class division. At times there is, for sure. But the division between higher educated and that's one that, and yet I look at many of the higher educated, not all, but especially the ones in the university, is you have a ton of academia that I don't have, but you don't have insight. And and the reason is because you've spent so long, and kudos to you for getting all of those letters after your name and spending all that time in academia and getting PhDs and masters and all of that stuff, okay? I'm not trying to bash it, but when you do that, then you don't have any time where you're actually learning about who you are, which in my opinion is the most important part to having common sense. Academia will give you academia level thinking, but no, and which is why they love to get the kids in the university, and they can easily get them, and the next thing you know, they're marching with Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. You're paying for your kids to go to these universities, $80,000 a year, okay, and the next thing you know, they got the headband of Yasser Arafat on and the PLO movement, and they're out there and they don't even realize, you're marching with terrorists. And your teacher, your professors in the university have convinced you of that because most of them are revolutionists. So there's just a lot of them around. And because most of those people have just based their entire identity on how many letters they have after their name and on their education, they don't know themselves. That's why many of them just lack common sense. That's why it's like some of this stuff I've seen go on throughout the years. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, I've worked with people, not everywhere I go, but where they do this group think, like you're not part of the club if you don't support all the people with a D after their name. And it's like, okay, juvenile club, no thanks. I mean, it's really, really, it's become worse over time because it has become a brainwashing tactic. And it has become that so much so that they think that they have empathy. And that's the biggest thing that nobody ever wants to talk about. People will say the liberals care. No, they don't. I think it's a fake empathy and they don't even realize it. I'm not saying they're incapable of caring. No, they can. They're just so used to their posse, their movement, because they can't, ever be alone. They have to, be with, a union, a movement, a whatever. And then they tell them what to care about. So what she noticed is that, kids in the universities are being made to hate the country. They're being made to hate the family tradition stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's what the revolutionary socialist communists do. Always in their playbook. It's in the Karl Marx playbook. It's been done since the beginning of time. What she doesn't know, okay, and what most people don't know is that, well, until 1844, we had one party. The name of that party was the Democratic Republican Party. And then the Jacksonian Democrats dropped Republican from it. Yeah, probably revolutionaries too. That's why Washington and some of the early founders were like, these factions will destroy the republic. And so that's how you got the Democrat Party. What most of these liberals and like this woman doesn't realize, like she said, Democrats need to go back to classic liberalism. Do you know what classic liberalism is? It's being a Republican. It's what we stand for. It's small government, individual freedom, and protecting traditional values. Yet she's defining classic or if you go look up the definition of classic liberalism, that's what it'll tell you. It's like, that's being a Republican. That's always what the Republican Party has stood for. Like, that's why I could never vote for a Democrat. They want big government, more social welfare, more government, more global cooperation, to the point where they got on board with globalism, okay, and that, look at where that's taken us. And they do that groupthink crap. So, her talking about a classic liberal is a Republican. It is. It absolutely is. But they've twisted things so much. So when she says that, it's like, so then you're saying you're a Republican. But she would probably be like, oh, because one of her answers, and I thought, okay, well, you could still see the crazy person in her, is she said, I'm hoping that if enough immigrants come to the country, they'll save our Constitution. No, look, see, that's what's wrong with you higher educated people. The people that will save the country is the Republicans, because we're about patriotic values. We're about keeping traditional values in place. We're about individual freedom, and we're about small government. So people immigrating here, most especially the past 4 years, please, okay? So, but that you can't, so even though she sees it, which is good, it's like she's still leaning on her own, those old ways of what that side teaches her to fix it. So, yeah, so look, just like everybody thought Republicans supported slavery, no, we were the ones that fought to abolish it. The Democrats fought to keep it. It's all been twisted. The Democrat Party, that's why socialism and communism embeds itself in that party, because it really doesn't stand on the true values of what our country was founded on.